This is the Nassaman Hockey Podcast with James Nichols and John Zella. Okay, and welcome back to the Nassaman Hockey Podcast. James Nichols and John Zella here as always. And as we hit record, it is officially the holiday season. And what I mean by that is it is hockey season. The puck has dropped for the first time in the 2021-22 regular season. So hockey fans, rejoice.
You're noticeably less grumpy now that we've hit record. I don't know what happened.
Hockey, the puck drop. Hockey has started.
The puck drop. Was it like a 7:30 game? Was that the first one? I'm a terrible hockey fan right now. I know the Islanders are playing this week, and I'm mad that I'm gonna miss it.
Are you?
I am, because I have a men's league game or beer league game, whatever you want to call it. And I have something right before that, so. No spoilers. That's a lie. I'm going to look anyway.
You're going to record the game and watch it so we can talk about it on the next episode, right?
Something. I'm pretty good about catching up on the highlights and things like that. So I'll be prepared to. There's plenty of other games. Luckily, they play every other day forever.
There's going to be 81 after that for the first time in what seems like eternity.
Yeah, my girlfriend loves that. She's like, is there begrudgingly. Just like, is there a game tonight?
Yeah.
Our Friday and Saturdays at times.
My wife likes to say that I'm married to the Islanders and cheating on her with, I'm cheating on them with her. I'm like, oh, okay.
It's possible. She's also said that about me.
That's also true, actually. Yeah.
So like we have a love-hate relationship, I think. Sometimes it's okay.
For those of you listening, I am a completely loyal husband. Don't want to make it seem like I'm anything but
this is a PR stunt. I don't know. I don't know that to be true. I've seen nothing either way.
All right, let's talk some hockey because it is hockey season. And let's talk about that last preseason game for the Islanders. They lost to the New York Rangers in what was overtime. Was it overtime? I believe it was overtime.
Yeah, it was.
Filipino scores a hat trick to seal the deal. A little bit of PK trouble, gave up a couple of goals on the penalty kill. But I don't take a ton of stock in that last game just because it's preseason and maybe they're not trying to go 100%. Nobody on the roster except for maybe Oliver Wahlstrom is battling for a position.
Do you think it was like that close for him, for Wahlstrom? I didn't get that sense. It was like, he's not having a great camp. Like, who's the replacement? I guess it could have been Komarov, and everyone would have had an absolute.
He's on a two-way deal, so he doesn't require waivers. And if Barry Trotz didn't see, Wahlstrom fit enough to start the season, I 100% could have seen Richard Panik starting on that third line. I don't think that's going to happen now. I think he had a particularly strong game that game, despite being pretty sloppy everywhere else. Not Wahlstrom, the Islanders as a whole. But again, I don't take a ton of stock in that just because I don't think everybody was going 100%. I think maybe Scott Mayfield was going 100% at times because he tried to drop down and block a shot, and he was successful, but it hurt.
Get the first one out of the way when it doesn't count, and you can play the rest of the game hobbling a bit.
Right.
I guess. Hopefully, it's not anything where he needs to start the season with. He's probably got a lump or whatever. Looking at the tape and kind of going through it, I didn't like that it was the full lineup against a Ranger lineup that was, I don't want to say depleted because they didn't play people on purpose, but not as strong of a lineup. I don't think the Rangers lineup is as strong full as it is when the Islanders are full as well. But I didn't like that. And it seemed like it's early, it's the preseason, it's whatever. You can kind of put your label on it. But was it 4-3 or 5-4, the final score? I think it was 4-3 in overtime. No, I can't remember.
I believe it was 5-4.
So 5-4, you don't want to see that. Not from a full Islanders lineup. If you lose the game in Islanders fashion, I think that's fine. I don't like to see that even in the preseason with the full lineup. And then the penalty kill. I also didn't like that. 2 or 3 goals were on the penalty kill against. Now they did score a number of goals. Obviously Lee looked really good.
Yep,
That first line
continues.
is clicking. The Islanders scored on their power play, or at least one of their power play chances.
Hmm.
Palmieri found Lee right in front, and so you can see that happening over and over again.
Oh yeah.
So that's really good. Good to see kind of Palmieri getting set up and making that pass. That was really good.
Yep.
Rangers defenseman who I can't think of right now did not play that particularly well, so you can't count on that every time. But you take your chances when you can. But yeah, I think 5-on-5 they were okay. They were scoring some goals. They were battling back all night. So I guess that's a positive sign. Even in the preseason, they came back and they came back. They scored a late third period goal. I can't remember who that was exactly. So it was good. It was good. There were good things out of that.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And like I said, I don't take a ton of stock in those things because, um, again, I don't think they were 100%, playing a full game out there. Personal game. I think that they were, a little lax, subconsciously, but they were a little lax just because, again, nobody wants to get hurt in the preseason. Nobody wants to miss a significant amount of time. This is a really important year. I mean, the past 2 years, Eastern Conference appearances. You heard this morning from Barry Trotz. There's unfinished business. So, no one wanted to get hurt, and I don't take too much stock in that game. I really don't.
That's
It's
probably
good
the
to see.
wise thing.
It's good. It's good to see they battled back, but the fact that they lost and they gave up 4 goals, like I'm not looking at Sorokin and saying to myself, "Oh, that's an issue," or I'm not looking at the defense or Adam Pelech, who notably was on the ice for a couple of goals and was a reason probably why they scored. I'm not looking at him and being like, okay, that's a problem. Like I don't foresee that happening.
Yeah, I mean the
Um,
Islanders are known to put up a stinker game every once in a while. So I guess get it out of the way.
sure,
If you're gonna play a little bit of a lax game,
yeah,
as you kind of get into your system, that's that's fine.
right,
Um, thinking about the upcoming, it's a long road trip. They've not done this in a while, considering that they were in a bubble the last. They were just on the East Coast. They really weren't going that far. Um, and this 13 game road trip is going to be a real test.
yeah,
I've seen a couple of different takes on what what's good for the Islanders. Like I saw some people say, if they go 7-6 with no one injured, that's fine. I didn't love that. I guess if they come back with a winning record, that's fine. I
I,
don't, it's definitely going to be a little adversity early on for them, which could be good. I think it's a bonding thing. I think all of that. Then they get to go back to that. They have that goal of reaching their home arena, that kind of thing to kind of keep their attention down the line. But um, yeah, I don't want to see them peak too early, like we've seen them do at times,
yeah,
where they get early in the season and they get rolling. I want to see them playing well. I almost don't care what the ultimate, unless they really blow it. I don't really care what their record is when they come back,
yeah.
as
As
long
long as
as
they're
they're
in the
playing
game and
well.
if they lose, then it's okay. It happens. You're not going to win 82 games, but I think that's something that we said last season too. You want to at least be in it. You don't want to lose 5-0. You
Right,
want to,
and that's rare. That is rare for them
yeah,
to lose those types of games. You see them still lose close games, and on the ice, it's not very close, just because the
right,
score is that way. Their defense typically keeps them in games, and their goalies keep them in games a little bit longer than they should.
yeah,
But yeah, I guess I just want to see them finding some consistency early, and showing everybody. There's a lot of people are picking them, predicting them to do really well in this division and really go far again in the playoffs, if not further. So you kind of want to see that they didn't skip a step.
yeah. No, totally. Couldn't agree more. Uh, all right. So going into Carolina on Thursday, the roster was set late last night or 2 nights ago as you're hearing this. 13 forwards, 8 defensemen, and 2 goaltenders, plus Schneider on the roster. And Corey Snyder's contract was just announced. He got a 1-year deal at $750K. It's actually a 2-way deal, which is interesting to see. And I did see a note too that he will be tied as the highest player paid in the AHL on a minor league deal with a $500K salary. So that was interesting to know. So he got a deal today. Bellows also got a deal today, 1 year, $750K as well. That's a 1-way. And an interesting note from Arthur Staple is that if and when these guys are, well, not, I shouldn't say if and when these contracts are filed, they don't need to go through waivers. That was the belief beforehand. It is not the case now, though. The belief was because they weren't signed before the season starts, or filed because before the season starts, that they would have to go on waivers, but they don't.
Yeah, there's some of that I don't understand. I'm going to be perfectly honest with you.
Yeah,
This
there's
is,
a
it
lot
seems
of
like a
little
lot of,
things.
yeah, some people were saying, and they were even Islander fans,
Yeah,
like, known kind of writers and stuff saying, like, this is cap circumvention. Like, this is what we, you know what I mean? Like, this
Lou
is
making his
pretty,
own rules.
this is Lou not necessarily breaking the rules, but bending them quite far. That it's definitely, it's not like it was one guy and they were trying to figure things out over a period of time and it was a late RFA or this or that, or it was just Delcol and they were arguing,
Well,
qualifying, and like it wasn't that. It was like a whole bunch of players. It was releasing, having things leak well after every other team had kind of started to announce it. It's not like there's any other moves. Like, again, it's not like what we thought about a trade or something like that. And
well,
who knows? But
like you love to say, two things can be true, and that he did hold off on filing these because Barry Trotz said, Lou's working the phones, and this was before all these signings came about. So it's possible that he was maybe trying to find a deal where he could, trade away Leo Komarov, who's at a $3 million cap hit. So two things can be true in the sense that, yeah, maybe it was a little bit of cap circumvention, but he didn't do anything illegal, and he was maybe just trying to figure out the best thing for his roster.
oh, I agree. It just doesn't look good. It's he's lucky. I guess he wouldn't do it if he didn't think he'd get away with it, and it was
Yeah,
going to hurt his team. He obviously wouldn't do it.
yeah,
But it's not a good look. It just kind of draws different attention to the team that I guess it hasn't hurt him so far. And I guess he wouldn't do it if he thought it would hurt the team in any way. They have a lot of really good press right now. Again, the predictions look really good. Not that they put a whole bunch of stock in that. But it's good PR. UBS, the whole thing. Like, the Islanders in really good shape as an organization right now.
yeah.
So if it meant hurting things, I don't think he'd be doing it. But questionable, I think, is what I would say.
Michael Delcol also receives a 1-year deal at $750K. He also cleared waivers on Tuesday. So a couple people thought he might have got picked up, maybe plucked by a team in need, maybe a Buffalo or a Detroit. But no, he remains with the Islanders. He'll be going to Bridgeport, it seems. And a couple other guys headed to the AHL as well. Robin Salo, Samuel Bolduc, Anatoly Golashev, who notably also got a 1-year, $750K contract, which is a 1-way, but he is headed to Bridgeport. Richard Panik is there, and Jacob Skarik will be there as well. He made the initial roster, but once the contract situation with Corey Schneider is all said and done, he will be going to Bridgeport. One player that was kind of an Islander, but is no longer and never was officially in Erik Gustafsson, was released from his PTO. He heads back to Chicago. He got a 1-year, $800K deal with them after a really strong performance in the preseason with the Islanders. Got to be honest, John, I did not expect this to happen. I really thought he was going to be the 7th defenseman for the Islanders this year.
I think it was a dollars and cents thing. I think
You're
the
probably right.
Islanders did too. The reports that I saw after that had been released was from Gustafson's camp saying that it was just a money thing. They were too close, and as we're seeing, like they're still kind of Lou is still manipulating things just to kind of make it work, and they're
Yeah.
$6,400 under the cap with Boychuk's LTIR, which is where you want to be. You want to be as close to the cap as possible when you use that LTIR because that kind of puts you at a hard cap. And then you
Yeah.
accrue it, which I don't really understand as the season goes on. Again, another just one of those like little things. So it's not like the Islanders won't be able to make a move towards the deadline or around the deadline if they need to do it, just because they don't have cap space now. That's not exactly how it works. I just don't exactly know what that means. But they'll figure it out if they need to make a move, and maybe that means moving Komarov then. Did it surprise you that Komarov's still around? And do you think he was really the player they were trying to trade? Just from like a contract perspective?
Yeah, from a contract perspective, that was the noise because in a lot of people's eyes, Richard Panik does the same thing, but slightly better offensively.
And
So
half the price?
yes,
Ish?
and half the price. So what's the sense in having them both? But that's a tough contract to get rid of. So it's one more year, and I saw something. I saw something earlier today. Not to jump ahead to the end of the season already, but after this season, there's only going to be one big contract due for Ryan Pulock and a bunch of other contracts coming off the books. They're going to be sitting at around $21 million next offseason. So money to spend in the offseason. That's good to hear and good to see.
Clutter and Martin also need new contracts, but you suspect they come back cheaper.
Yes.
But right. They seem to be kind of hanging around, even guys like Delcol or whatever. They seem to
Right.
they're keeping them on the books. But yes, Komarov is a big one. Green and Chara, presume like who knows what's going on with them after the season, but we're probably jumping
Exactly.
ahead a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit. Let's actually talk about Parise and Chara now. They receive 1-year deals finally. I mean, we knew that they received contracts. They've been playing and doing everything as an Islander without a filed contract. But it's filed now. They have a 1-year deal at $1.5 million AAV. The cap hit is just $750K. Shocking. But there are incentives. It's likely performance bonuses based on games played. Also shocking, we don't know the number of games played that they need to hit that bonus, but if they do hit those bonuses, they will receive an extra $750,000, and that equates to the $1.5 million average annual value.
And that's so part of that too, and this is what Green did last year. Some of these bonuses, if they go over the cap in this year, get pushed to next year. So something to keep in mind with all of these different things,
Right.
like Green's bonuses from last year, I think are having an effect on this season a little bit.
Yes.
So you're kicking the can down the road. It's ultimately not that much money, even if they both get it. It's $1.5 million. Like you said, there's quite a bit of money next season.
Yeah.
But with the cap, if the cap goes up $1.5 million because this season's a real hit, it leaves the Islanders at a little bit of a disadvantage and not being able to capitalize on that. But we will cross that bridge. They have not even played game one yet, so I guess I'm not really that worried.
Yeah, not too worried about that. All right, so the finalized roster, 23 men per the NHL site: Anders Lee, Matthew Barzal, Kyle Palmieri, Beauvillier, Nelson Bailey, Parise, Pujol, Wallstrom, Johnson, Cizikas, Clutterbuck, Komarov, Pelech Pulak, Chara Dobson, Green Mayfield, Aho Hickey, Sorokin, and Skarik. Martin goes to injured reserve. So does Varlamov. And then Johnny Boychuk goes to LTIR, relieving that $6 million. The question surrounds Bellows and Schneider contracts because they don't need to go through waivers if they stay on the roster, but they don't fit uh, at this moment. It's okay. You can easily see Scarrick going to Bridgeport, right? I don't think he
Until
needs
Varlamov's ready, absolutely. That's
right,
kind of what's going to happen.
right. Once Varlamov's ready, Schneider's going to go as well. But he's on a two-way contract, so that makes things a little easier. The problem here is with Kiefer Bellows because he's on a 1-year, a one-way deal. So I'm not too sure if they're going to risk losing him. The only player who's now on the roster who doesn't require waivers is Wallstrom.
So the Bellows, I don't know if Bellows requires waivers or not, but it has nothing to do with the one way or two way. Two way just means you get paid differently. Waivers is separate from that.
No, I know. I'm just talking in terms of it's not a rookie contract anymore.
Right. I wanted to make
Yeah,
that clear that
yeah.
that's not the same thing.
No, right. I gotcha. So the only situation I see possibly happening other than Wallstrom getting sent down because he doesn't require waivers is Leo Komarov. I don't think anybody's going to pick him up on waivers at that cap hit. What do you think?
No, they might try to sneak him down. I mean, they did last year. How many times?
Right.
He was
Well,
kind
they
of
had the
back in.
taxi squad.
Right, but you still need to go through waivers to get to the taxi squad. So I think that was worth it for sure.
Right.
So I if they need to do it, they'll do it.
Yeah, you're probably right.
And I am surprised that the taxi squad didn't come back because what we saw with Colorado with 5 players and Seattle.
Yeah.
No, Colorado was Nathan McKinnon. So of all players, I believe that's who the player was for Colorado. But then with the Seattle Kraken, there was 5 players in there in the opening game tonight on Tuesday that are unable to play. And that's a huge.
Yeah.
I think that's. I'm surprised the taxi squad didn't come back. Like we didn't know that was going to happen. I think they figured it out one way or another. I don't know how they manipulated the rosters and made it all work, but presumably it's fine. But I'm just a little surprised and there was no return.
Yeah, it's weird too because like we heard about it, right? We heard about the taxi squad possibly coming back,
Right.
and those were from verified NHL sources, and then suddenly it was just never spoken about. So
Yeah,
I
it
was
did kind of come up and then go away.
and I was just a bit confused by that because we're already seeing it's started, right? Like you mentioned, McKinnon's out. A couple other players. There's actually a couple of players who aren't playing at all this season because of complications with it long term. And then the Seattle players, five of their main guys. I mean, who's not a main guy on Seattle? They were all just drafted to the team, but 5 of their players on the roster are not playing, or I think it's actually 3 are definitely not, 2 are questionable, and they have like 2 hours to figure it out as of right now. So a possible 5 players are not playing in the inaugural game for the Seattle Kraken. So yeah, I don't know. I really did think that we were going to see a taxi squad this year. Do you think it's something that they can implement later, or does that complicate things?
I mean, you hope that something doesn't happen where they need to figure it out.
Right.
So I want to say no because I'm putting the energy in the world that they don't need to do it. That the Seattle thing was a weird thing that had happened. I even think with Nathan McKinnon that he's asymptomatic. Last I saw, there were 4 players unvaccinated in the league that are skating like with teams. So it's not, hopefully that it works. It's proven to work. So they're either asymptomatic or they're not going to get nearly as sick, but they need to stay away from the game.
Right.
Yeah. So hopefully it doesn't get any worse than this. That this is a rare thing for the beginning of the season. There was a mishap, and it's fine. They move forward.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about some other roster moves that happened. Sebastian Aho makes the team. That's actually, in my opinion, they let Gustafson go. They still have a Sebastian Aho now. It's a one-way contract, so he's making NHL money no matter what. He's gonna be the seventh defenseman, right? He's not getting in the top six until someone's injured. But Trotz had mentioned strong camp from him. He looked real good. Maybe he found another level. And maybe now they trusted him. Maybe part of the reason why they let Gustafson go was because they saw something in Sebastian Aho. Probably another player that we'll talk about a little bit after we talk about Sebastian Aho. But what do you think about Aho sticking around? Is this a good development for you, or did you see it as they had no other choice?
I'd prefer some of the homegrown guys sticking around. I think that's good. You want to see Aho maybe have an opportunity. Not having Green or Chara get hurt necessarily, but if Aho just plays well every time he goes in, and then he gets whatever chance because Chara has a slight little injury that he needs a few games off, and Aho can get in there and really play. Um, I wanted to make it a hard decision for Trotz. Yeah, maybe I think I didn't really read into Gustafson that deeply, and I think I'd mentioned a few episodes ago that no other team would need any other team could just sign him at any point.
Yeah,
He didn't need to
yeah,
be
we spoke
released from
about that.
anything, so that might be, it looks like he was released, and then that Chicago signed him, but
Yeah,
that conversation might have been happening all along. So
yeah,
I mean, he could have just been finishing the PTO, and the Islanders were happy to have him around during the preseason, but they weren't. They had no intention, so they were like, "Go for it, do what you have to do." Um, it's a little disappointing from the standpoint that he has that experience, but if they were going to go with someone that was good a few seasons ago, and had some questionable seasons or didn't play that much or whatever you want to say, I think they had the guy in Hickey. I don't think you need a Gustafson necessarily. I don't know that Gustafson's been any better than Hickey has been. So I guess go with the guys you know. Aho's been around the team. He knows the system. Um, they've played recently, not that much with the team. So yeah, maybe you just keep Hickey around. I'm sorry, Aho around and Hickey as well for now until he inevitably gets sent down to Bridgeport. Um, just to kind of fill in the gaps here and there. I think it'll be good. Um, to have him around. Like I said, I don't see Chara and Green playing every single game this season, but
I don't
I could be
either.
wrong.
Yeah, no, I don't either. I think the thing with Gustafson was they brought him on because they thought that he was going to be similar to what Nicoletti was, and you know, I think he proved that maybe not as good, but he could bring something similar, a closer element uh, to that than maybe a Sebastian Aho could. But Sebastian Aho playing as well as he did, um, I think that maybe they said to themselves, okay, we don't need Gustafson necessarily. We're also in a cap crunch. I think they would have risked losing Aho on waivers, and they
You
would have signed
think?
Gustafson. I think they would have, because it's been 3 seasons now where he's just been around, but he hasn't played. You know?
Yeah, but they keep keeping him around. It's kind of like Delcol. Like there's a reason. Kind of like we spoke about at the beginning of last episode. Like the Islanders are really good at just finding these guys that are their specific role players. I don't know that
Yeah.
these guys are like Johnston or Komarov or Delcol or really anybody up. You have Parise, you stick them in there. They're playing a very specific role, and they're kind of happy, seemingly happy with that. Um,
I just
Aho
think
might just be a good seventh defenseman that they can trust just because he has been around, and there's less to teach him as
the
opposed to Gustafson, who you
yeah.
need to. I don't know how many preseason games in camp. How long does it take to really get somebody caught up to speed? At least Aho, you have there. He knows what's going on. Um, And yeah, Gustafson would have cost you another $1 million or so, $750, $1 million, whatever the case is.
800K.
800K, as it turns out. So I don't know. I think you stick with what you know a little bit. They thought give it a shot, see if, like you said, maybe Aho was really good for them in camp, and he impressed
Yeah,
them a
well,
little bit. I
I
think
mean
that's fine.
that is the thing, right? They did say he was really good in camp. I just think that they signed him to a PTO for a reason. They were just unsure. And then what they saw, what they had in Aho, they said to themselves, okay, we don't need to necessarily hang on to Gustafson. Maybe we can get the same thing out of Aho, which is great.
I agree with that. I think
Yeah.
that's fair.
But if they saw something different in Sebastian Aho and he was just, maybe didn't take a step forward, but a lateral step even at that point because he wasn't he didn't play a game. Maybe he played one last season. So if he took a lateral step this year, and this is a
Aho is 2 or 3 now.
say again,
Aho, didn't he play 2 or 3?
maybe he played 2 or 3 games. I barely remember him playing at all. So
He did
that's
score
why
a goal.
okay. So the point is here he
Yeah,
played
he played
so
3 games,
minimal.
2 points.
He
Like,
played,
it's not he kinda came in there and did what he had to do,
which I
which is
understand, but he played
yeah.
so minimal, and there's a reason they brought Erik Gustafsson in, that I do think they would have risked losing him on waivers because this is a year where if they saw something in Gustafsson that they didn't see in Aho, they're trying to win the cup this year. I see a lot of Stanley Cup or busts.
Yeah.
I don't know that I necessarily agree with that. I do understand the sentiment, but I don't think it's a complete bust if they don't win this year. Although we'll talk about who we think wins later. Um,
Yeah.
I don't.
I don't know that teams bring in players on PTOs for all sorts of reasons. So who knows why he was real? I mean, there's a chance he could have made the lineup. It didn't sound like he had a terrible time with the Islanders. He probably just did what he had to do. He was a role player. If they felt Aho could just do it better, and he was going to be too expensive, there's no
Mhm.
reason to keep him around. It was just too hard to do.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, you could be right.
he also wasn't a great skater. Aho's a little bit younger. Do you roll the dice on somebody that, I mean, and I even said I thought that was what might happen, that Gustafson, just based on, not very long ago, he had a very good offensive season, even if the last couple of years he's been questionable on defense. Can Trotz be the player, the coach to fix this player? If the Islanders feel like they can win the cup, they don't need a reclamation project. They're going with people that they know work. And if he came in and it was good, but they don't really, they can't confidently say it's going to work, then it just wasn't going to happen.
Well, here's one other thing that I think. Erik Gustafsson is a bit of a power play specialist. He had like 5 points in the preseason, a couple of them on the power play. I think the reason why they didn't necessarily say to themselves, we need to keep Gustafsson is because, yes, Sebastian Aho stepped up in the preseason and looked real good. But also because Noah Dobson looked real good on the power play as well. And I think that gave them the confidence to say to themselves, okay, even though Gustafson is a power play specialist, we're not going to necessarily need him to, fill that role for us. Like we said, the Islanders are filled with a bunch of role players. Gustafson is a role player, but they didn't need him to be because they had it they do have it now in Noah Dobson, who's I guess not necessarily a role player. He's a core player, but he's acquired now the ability to work the power play, be the quarterback. And then same goes for Sebastian Aho, who is a role player. His role is the seventh defenseman, fill in when needed. So
Yeah.
I think it was twofold. It was Sebastian Aho stepping up and the development of Noah Dobson moving forward.
Yeah. And you have Chara there to help him. So
Right.
there's a lot of hope there. I think it's a lot riding on that relationship working out really well. Whereas, where Chara did that with McAvoy in the past. Um, I think that's what the Islanders are hoping for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, before we go on with the show, let's just take a quick break and get to our sponsors. Support for this episode is brought to you by DraftKings. Another week of the NFL season means another shot to win big at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. New customers can bet just $1 on any NFL game and win $100 in free bets if either team scores a point. The last 0-0 tie in the NFL was in 1943, so I'd say this is a no-brainer. If Sportsbook isn't available in your state yet, DraftKings won't leave you empty-handed. Everyone can play for huge cash prizes all season long with DraftKings daily fantasy sports contests. DraftKings is giving all new customers a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes with their first deposit. So download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now, use promo code THPN, throw down $1 on any NFL game, and win $100 in free bets if either team scores a point. That's promo code THPN this week at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Must be 21 years or older, New Jersey, Indiana, and Pennsylvania only, new customers only, minimum $5 deposit and $1 wager required. One per customer, restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Additional support for this podcast is brought to you by Manscaped. Guess what, fellas? The boys are buzzing because hockey is back. Want to know what else is buzzing? The Lawnmower 4.0 from our friends at Manscaped. They are the global leaders in male grooming, trusted by over 2 million men worldwide. Don't get chirped this year for having a Jumbo Joe bush below the waist. Join the Manscaped movement for all your hairiest grooming needs. Get 20% off and free shipping with code NHP20 at manscaped.com. Personally, I'm in love with the Performance Package 4.0 from Manscaped. Included is the Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer, Weed Whacker ear and nose hair trimmer, formulations, and 2 free gifts. This package is the perfect package to help you put the D back in your defense. The opening face-off in the Battle of the Bush is the Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer versus your pubes. This 4th generation trimmer features a cutting-edge ceramic blade to reduce grooming accidents thanks to their advanced skin-safe technology. Not only that, but the Lawnmower 4.0 has a 7,000 RPM motor, a new multifunction on-off switch which can engage a travel lock, and gives you the ability to turn on the 400K LED spotlight when needed for a more precise shave. Did I mention this trimmer is waterproof too? So don't take a penalty below the waist. Playoff beards are meant for your face, not your pants. Get 20% off and free shipping with code NHP20 at manscaped.com. Don't be a goon and fight your bush with the other guys. Choose Manscaped. Get 20% off and free shipping with code NHP20 at manscaped.com. That's right, 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com using promo code NHP20. Don't get denied pipe this season and shave your pants pucks with the right tools for the job. All right, welcome back. And John, I wanted to talk about the hype video that went out the other day. Did you see the hype video for the opening of UBS Arena and the opening of the 2021-22 season for the New York Islanders?
I did. I thought it was well done.
It was well done, and there was a little bit of a possible spoiler. It's not confirmed, but it was something that the Isles Fix Twitter picked up that you and I now are both working for, by the way. Which is great, and it's been pretty successful, and everybody's been really enjoying it. So,
and we'll be partnering with them, or we'll be working closely. Consider this our announcement, I suppose, that we're going to be working with them as not just you and I writing for the newsletter, but partnering up and collaborating whenever possible.
Yeah, we'll be doing some.
And then we're go ahead.
I was just gonna say we'll be doing some hand-in-hand work.
Yeah, hand-in-hand work. We're still tight with the Hockey Podcast Network. We love those guys, so we're happy to kind of add in another group. So a new logo will be popping up on our materials shortly, as soon as I get to it. It's been a hectic few weeks.
Was it you that said we're starting to look like those KHL jerseys?
Yeah, we're like a European hockey jersey. We got a lot of stuff. I might have to take this little Long Island out and clean up everything here. We got promo codes from our lovely sponsors who support the show. God, the Manscaped stuff is so good. I'm so happy that they're and we should have some new stuff to show off soon. We have to get that rolling. So no spoilers there, but we'll have some cool stuff for you.
Yeah.
So we'll be partnering with Isles Fix. Podcast Network is still our friends and our buddies and our partners. So Just adding to the family.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah. Anyway, getting back to the possible leak, there was what looked like could be a jersey patch. It was a circular logo, inaugural 2021-22 season, at Belmont UBS Arena. What'd you think of the logo?
Looking at it closer at this moment, because I did see it yesterday. We were putting the newsletter together, and it was
Yeah.
in our notes. Looking at it now, and what I didn't notice yesterday was that the NY is a lot like they just took the NY off of the black jerseys
Yeah.
or the Stadium Series jerseys and kind of stuck it on there.
I think that's the NY on the current thirds. The slight minor difference is the black jersey. The Y, the stick part is like slanted downward, and as is the one for the Stadium Series jersey. The one for the
Yeah.
current thirds is just a straight hockey stick
Yeah.
on the Y part. So
If
that's the
you're
one on the third jersey.
if you're watching the show and you see me looking up right now, it's because I'm looking at my Islanders memorabilia, but I'm realizing that all of it is from before 2003. So it's very irrelevant at this
Because
point.
you're old.
Yeah, a little getting there. I know, so I went up to like the HD camera. I don't want to do that because the gray hair is just going to come through. I don't need that. But yeah, I'm trying to notice. I'm looking up, and all of my stuff has only the 3 stripes on the stick,
Yeah.
just like
I think
your flag behind you has
yeah,
a
so
3,
does
which
this,
means
yeah.
it's before a certain. Well, I mean, I think before 2010, honestly. Even in the early 2000s, when Chara was last on the team, late 90s and early 2000s, they had the stripes on the shoulder. The
Yeah.
stick still had 3, which I
That's true.
thinking about it is very strange.
It's because I don't think they knew that they were going to do that. I think it was just one year where they were like, "Why don't we just do this and
Well, it
scrap
was
the
like
shoulder patch?"
somebody like they had somebody new in marketing. Some intern was probably like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, shouldn't that be the same? Like, why do you do this? Oh, because the 4 Stanley Cups." Like, well, shouldn't you do it there too? Anyway,
And then they fired
um,
that kid and took the credit for it.
they maybe who knows? Mike Milbury probably threw a garbage can at him. And he still lives in that garbage can. Milbury, that is.
With his shoe.
With one shoe because he threw it at somebody. He is hockey's Oscar the Grouch.
Okay.
Anyway, so looking at this, I think it's cool. I love kind of circular logo patchy, whatever you want to call this thing. That has an extra little circle around it. Like I think it just kind of adds depth. I think I mentioned that about the practice jerseys. I love that they have that circle around it. I know it's not the Islanders logo, but whatever. I like it. It's cool. I wish it had a Long Island in it. I guess they have some silhouette outline of UBS Arena there, so that serves as that. But there's nothing distinctive about it as far as it being the Islanders. Other like it just doesn't feel very Islanders to me. I get it. This is very insignificant. It doesn't really matter. It'll only matter in 20 years when people are selling these jerseys on eBay and should be like, this is the inaugural UBS, blah blah. And I'm sitting here like the fisherman. You don't understand.
Get off my lawn.
Get off my lawn. So yeah, it's cool. What do you think? That was a really long tangent for me to say that it was okay.
It's all right. Whatever. It's simple. It's very Lou Lamoriello, right? Like that's.
Do you think he has that much pull with like even this stuff?
Yes. Yes.
You don't think the
100%
owners
yes.
and
I think that the owners.
God, he has so much bigger fish to fry than like is the pat. Like, what do you think? It's not a. What could they possibly do? Like, how obnoxious could the patch be where Lamoriello is going to be like, no?
Well, no,
Like,
I agree that he has bigger fish to fry, but I also think that before the conversations even had about what it was that they were going to do, he was probably thinking about it already, and he turned to like whoever it was that designs. Not maybe. He turns to whatever team takes care of this and said, "Hey, keep it simple," and that was it. I could see a scenario where that happens. Why do you think that the Devils never had a third jersey when he was there?
I don't know. I mean, the only other option was a black version of their jersey or going back to green, and he had changed it from green, I
Right.
believe. So he wasn't going to go back.
Right.
And I guess a black one would have been cool, but they were red and white.
Any team that he's ever been a part of, he's always had these rules in place. And I think that that's still happening. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I just think that that's the way he operates. I think he wants things to look simple. He wants the simplicity of things, and he sticks to it. And I think the reason why that if it is the jersey patch that goes on for the inaugural season, I think it's simple for a reason, and it's because Lou wanted it that way.
It's entirely possible. Like I said, I feel like this is maybe low on the priority list. Sure, that's fine. Whatever, Lou. I'm trying to remember. I think the 2015 New York Islanders patch, the last season at the Coliseum, was pretty cool. I can't remember exactly what it looks like.
I just keep thinking about the one that
Oh,
they
it's the
had.
4 cups. It said 72 to 2015, 43 years of history.
Oh yeah,
That was cool.
yeah, I like that one. I like the. I did like the bridge when they went to Brooklyn. I thought that was not that I liked the move, but the patch itself. I did like the bridge. It made sense.
Do you think that yeah, that was pretty cool. Do you think that the black jerseys got a bad rap, or were they really as bad as everyone made them out to be?
I want to let you in on a little secret. I almost wore it for tonight's episode. And then I said to myself, I don't want to have to deal with that backlash. And now I'm telling you I almost wore it. So
I mean, almost. It's not all the way. You own one.
I do.
So that's a thing. I just don't like the NY. The rest of it is actually cool. Like, I actually like the white stripes on the arms. The NY is the only thing that's weird. I don't know what other treatment it would need to get. The rest of it's okay.
My favorite part.
I like the stripes and the white. I don't know. It looks kind of cool. It's just the NY. It looks like someone just rushed it out the door and just didn't finish it.
My favorite part of the jersey is actually on the inside in the back. On the collar, there's a blue stripe and an orange stripe. That's my favorite part, which pretty much tells you all you need to know because you can't see that part of the jersey. I own it, and at the time I thought it was cool. I grew up, but my favorite part is on the inside of the jersey. So that pretty much tells you all you need to know about that jersey.
Yeah, we don't need to dive into that. Just something on my mind.
Yeah. All right, moving on. You had put out a pretty good article the other day, pal.
Thank you.
3 players that the Islanders need to step up this season. I did agree with all 3 of those players. Why don't you tell us who your choices were, and then I will give you mine after.
I had Dobson, Wahlstrom, and Beauvillier.
Which one of those 3 do you think is the most important to step up?
That's a really good question. I think there's a lot of expectation with Wahlstrom. The Islanders didn't go out and get that big fish for the forward group. So I think there's a lot of pressure on him to kind of step up and not have that.
Real quick?
Sure.
It's really cool that I'm looking at Mark Messier and Chris Chelios on a panel right now. Continue.
That's super weird that they're involved in the game. Oh, you want to hear a weird stat? And I think I saved the tweet, but I saw somebody was, I think on Steve Dangle podcast, they were talking about that Chara played in the league with Wayne Gretzky. And thinking about that, Spezza, Thornton,
I think Thornton,
Chara,
yes. Yep.
and a few other players, and I was like, oh my God. And that was the late 90s. April 99 is when Gretzky retired.
Yep.
And those guys weren't even rookies. They had been in the league at that point a few years.
Yep.
At least Thornton and Chara. I don't know. I can't remember Spezza so much, but yeah, super weird to think about that. Anyway.
Yes.
I think there's a lot riding on Wahlstrom. He probably just has a lot of pressure on himself. The Islanders are a pretty deep forward group, so it's not like it's all riding on him. It's just they chose to go a certain direction. They believed in the guys that they had, and they're going with it. I think right behind that is Dobson. Which the other night, I think it was on the power play. The Islanders tied it up late in that Ranger game, and it was a shot from the point that somebody deflected. Might have been Lee. I thought that was a really good sign. He was getting that top line power play unit minutes. He's really got to take that and run. He has to just like a sponge with Chara, go out. Not that he didn't do that in the past, but now he's in. Now there's no sheltering. They're in. He's their guy. So he's going to need to just step up.
Right.
So I think both of them are really important. And I think again in the top 6 that they're going to get a little bit more time. I really want to see more from Beauvillier. He seems to find it in the playoffs, right? Under pressure. I said this in my article with the Hockey Writers. Under pressure, he seems to find his game. I think him finding his game is maybe even more important than Wahlstrom and Dobson.
When you started this whole thing, I was gonna say I was really surprised you didn't put Beauvillier first.
I wanted to end with it because I really think Nelson, and I said this in the article, Nelson is quiet and consistent. You can pretty much set your watch to 20-25 goals with him. The first line, those expectations are high. They cannot miss. What the Islanders have proved, and what other good teams who have either won the cup or made it really far proved, is that it's those secondary and tertiary players in the playoffs that really make that difference. And Palmieri did that last year. Villiers stepped up and did that at times.
Yeah. So it's that saying is the top 6 wins you games, the bottom 6 wins you championships.
Absolutely. So I think he might even be the more important piece there. Everybody needs to step up, considering they didn't get a big.
Oh yeah.
So they really believe in this group. They are going to need to continue to do this by committee. There's no one to lean on, right? It's everybody's. If everyone's going, everyone's going. One piece is off. You've seen that it takes very little. It's like Chris Traeger or whatever in Parks and Rec. One little piece of sand in the machine, and it breaks, right?
Right.
That's a lot like this team. One little thing kind of goes wrong, and you see the wheels wobble. Now they're very good at avoiding that, by and large. Sorry, I'm boring you. He's yawning right in front of me.
No, it's been a long day, pal. Has nothing to do with you.
It has. It's been a long, working very late last night, and then we were starting to do the newsletter. It was a brutal day yesterday. Made me realize I need a new computer chair.
Excellent newsletter, though.
Thank you. That was by committee. A lot like the Islanders. We did that's a group effort.
Yeah. We all had a piece in it. I plugged a bunch of stuff for the one for today. That's going out tomorrow morning.
Yeah, it's going to be good. But anyway,
first goal of the year.
Who?
First goal of the year goes to, is it Jeff Carter? It might be Jeff Carter.
That's a good. All right, so this is one of those games that they play on Puck Soup sometimes, like who he play for. Oh, I have no idea. I have no idea who Jeff Carter plays for. I want to say, did he stay in Pittsburgh? No.
Yes.
He did. Okay.
Yes. Woo. Although it wasn't him who scored. It was, I think his first name was Dalton Heinen. Used to be with Boston. Then he moved to, I believe, Anaheim. And now he's with Pittsburgh. So yeah, Heinen scores the first goal.
Brian Boyle with Pittsburgh as well.
Yes, he is.
That deal got done. We're not doing around the NHL, but this is our little foyer into that.
Yeah.
But yes, I really do think Beauvillier is every player is important, but I think he can really take it. If he takes it to the next level, the entire team does better.
Yeah.
Everyone feels a little less pressure and they just win more hockey games. They can really put themselves in position to do even better in the playoffs. He seems to do really well there, like I said before. So if he can start like he means to continue and have a really good regular season and be a little more consistent, I think that really bodes well for everybody.
So I want to first start by saying I completely agree with all three of your players. These are all brutal pieces to the lineup that need to get better, and not to
They're
say that they
crucial,
weren't. They're
not brutal.
crucial. Not to say that they weren't good already. We've seen what Bavilier does in big moments, like you said. We've seen Wallstrom's shot is lethal, and Dobson is a crucial piece of the defense moving forward. Um, I'm gonna, like I said, I agree with all those players. I think for me, it's Dobson, just because we lost Letty, we moved Taves. A lot of guys that you know, 2 years ago, if you would have told me we would be out both Letty and Taves, I would have said to you, "You're crazy." Yet here we are. So you really hope that Dobson, and it looks good so far, can replace all of that.
I don't know that it's like a direct, like, one-for-one replacement. Like,
Not
I'm
a
not ex
one. No,
those aren't my expectations, right?
no,
I
no.
think and I'm not even expecting him necessarily to replace one, both, one or the other, or whatever the case is. I think it's just be the start to be some of that offensive defenseman and jump into the play and hopefully feel confident
Yeah,
enough to do that alongside Chara. And then he has a lot of rope being who he is as a player and his style being on the power play. He really
yeah.
does have an opportunity here and he needs to run with it.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah,
want to just sit here and say that he needs to be a direct replacement of them both, but he's in the top four now, so he needs to be a top four player. And if he's going to power play the quarterback, hopefully he can bring a little bit of a different look and help it, be a little bit more successful. But I think for me, Dobson might be one. Now I will say there
considering the
are.
defense and how important it is to this team, maybe I could agree with that. I can get on board with that line
Yeah.
of thinking. I mean, all six defensemen need to be number one, frankly.
Well, okay, so now there are two other players that I'm thinking of. Now, again, I completely agree with yours, and the three that you have here might be the most important. There are two other players I'm thinking of that I would put on my list because I agree with yours. So I'm going to leave them there. One of them, I'm going to say, I think it needs to be Scott Mayfield. And the reason why I say Scott Mayfield is because he had a fantastic postseason, a super subpar regular season. And now that it's an 82 game schedule, a little bit closer to what it was like before the world shut down in 2019, he was struggling a bit last season. And he needs to be more consistent this year, bringing more of that grit and that defense that he had in the postseason. He was a completely new player in the postseason last year, and we didn't get that for most of the regular season in 2019-20. So I think it's important for him because, again, because Dobson moved up to the top four, and that essentially just slides him down so he can pair with Green. We both like to say they have 2 second pairings. They're going to get equal minutes.
I think so.
Um, so I think it's important that he continues to play that strong style that we saw in the postseason and not revert back to regular season Scott Mayfield. That needs to stay consistent.
I think playing alongside Green will, and I've said this before. I think playing alongside Green will provide a lot of stability for Mayfield. He won't
That's
be
the hope.
playing. He won't be playing with somebody that's going to be jumping up in the play. He can kind of believe that Green is going to be at least not every single play. Letty was really good on zone exits and zone entries for the Islanders, which is really important. But Green was proven to be one of the better or the best defenseman in the NHL at retrieving pucks in his own end. So it's one less thing Mayfield needs to worry about. It's a lot of stability for him. I think that's good. I think that's it. Kind of takes a little bit of pressure off of him. And then with Dobson playing with Chara, and we said this before as well. Dobson now has somebody that he knows will, is a big body, can take up a lot of space. It kind of gives him a little bit more room out there. Um, Again, Green did a world of good for Dobson, but I think Chara can help him kind of get to that next level.
And of course, Brian Boyle just scores his first goal as a Penguin, 2-0 over Tampa Bay right now.
I was seeing tweets that they look a little hungover Stanley Cup hangover.
Oh, uh-oh. Okay, and now
Yikes.
my third player. And I don't know if this maybe might come as a bit of a surprise to you. But I'm going to say it. I think Matthew Barzal needs to have a stellar season. We started to see it last year. You saw the highlight reel plays. Now it needs to translate on paper. He's got Anders Lee back. For some reason, I have this sneaking suspicion that Palmieri's going to work out better than Eberle did. Different style of player. I just think that he is the Islanders' star player. And although he hasn't quite returned to that point per game pace, if the Islanders are going to take a step forward this year as a whole, they need at least a star player. And he has star qualities. He has, the speed, the skill, the IQ. He has it all. It just needs to all come together now. And he needs to put this team on his back on certain nights when they need it and win them a freaking hockey game. If push comes to shove and they're maybe lacking a little bit. He needs to have, I don't want to say he needs to be as good as Nathan McKinnon or Connor McDavid, but he needs to try and get himself solidified amongst that group because he has it and he could do it.
I agree with that. With the caveat that that's my expectation for him, that he steps up this year. You know what I mean? Like, that's not, I expect the good players to be good. Not that Dobson or Wahlstrom really haven't been, but there's room for them to find another gear. Barzal just needs to have another really good year. And even if he can find another gear and really even do better than that, I guess that's really good. But they really do carry the team in the offense for the most part anyway. Right? Your stars are going to be your stars. When I was thinking about this, it was these are the players that can complement your stars, that can help get the team to the next level. Barzal is going to be Barzal. Right? That first line is going to be good. It's the rest of the team that I felt, who are the players that really can make a difference here? Look, Parise is obviously going to play a really big role. Pajot is going to continue to play a big role, that fourth line. But on the offensive side of the puck and the two players that I chose, Wahlstrom and Beauvillier have the most room to grow. And if they can fill that gap, if they can fill that space, where it's going to be hard. Barzal to raise his game is really hard, right? Because he's already hitting that, right? You're trying to make him turn up to 11. He's at 10.5 already, 10.5, right?
Yeah.
There's other players, they're not there yet. They have a lot of room to kind of hit their stride. I think even with Beauvillier, who's going to, I think, his fifth season, I don't think he's really hit his stride all the way. I think there's a little bit more room there. And that was kind of my point, where they can actually make the most noticeable difference if they step up.
I don't disagree with that.
And that was
at all.
That was just the impetus of the argument, where I just thought there was more room, and therefore they had the ability to make a bigger difference. Then again, your star players are your star players. They're not a liability. They're scoring goals. That's what they're supposed to do. It's the secondary group.
For argument's sake, are you saying that, Barzal had what, 70? Did he even have 70 points last season? No, right?
No, in 56 games.
Oh, yeah, true. No. All right. So for argument's sake, let's say that he scored at a 0.8 points per game pace, right? 0.8. If he hit that point per game mark again, is that not another gear for him? Right? You said he's at 10.5 right now.
I expect that. It's harder for him to do that because he's already done it. He had 80 points in 82 games, if I'm not mistaken, or
he had
whatever.
85 in his rookie year.
Right. So he can do it. I know he can be a point per game player. I expect that from him because he's done it before. These other players have not done it. Barzal can be better. That. I expect him to be a little bit better. There's a little bit of room there for him to go from a star to elite, or whatever you want to, however you want to kind of identify that or qualify that. These other players, there's so much more room for them to grow. There's so much
I
more
agree.
space.
I agree, but now we're talking about players who need to step up. If he has that gear, but he hasn't utilized it in 3 seasons, that's stepping up to me. I don't know.
I think you're not wrong. I just don't. It's like McDavid raising his game last year. Like that must have been that was ridiculous.
Yeah.
That or Austin Matthews or any of these players that like Crosby's done this a number of times where you're like, I can't believe there's another gear. It would really surprise me if Barzal found a completely other thing and all of a sudden he's at 12, right? Like he really just took it, right? Because he's really been very good.
Yeah.
This is why I'm not in the NHL, I'm not a coach, I'm not anything. I have a podcast. I can't even see where he would get better. Like I don't know. I can't point to something other than like be a little more selfish. Or whatever. I think his line mates will make him better this year. Period. End of discussion. That will just make him better again. Having a full season will help as well. But having not Komarov and Eberle, who had his own problems with consistency, will just make him better. Right? Like I that line is going to be good. Like, again, I'm not worried about that.
Yeah. And maybe that's why he needs to step up and have that kind of a year this year because his line mates are better and he's well equipped.
I'd argue that it's just the entire line. They have everything. They have a reputation to maintain, and you know what I mean? Like that's a little bit different than like they can grow. They just need to play well together.
It kills me to know.
I know I'm like splitting hairs here. Like I
No,
know
but you're not wrong.
This is ridiculous.
Because it kills me to know that Anders Lee was scoring at a 39, somewhere between 37 and 39 goal pace last season, and then he got hurt, so you didn't get to see that come to fruition. But you really, the mind wonders what might have happened if he stayed healthy.
Yeah, but then Palmieri maybe doesn't come. Like so much of this is a long-term process, right? Like you have little setbacks. They still made it really far with Komarov consistently in the lineup. You know what I mean? Like with Delcol going in, with whatever, with Andy Green in the lineup on a regular basis. Now they have Chara too. I'm confident they'll do well.
Oh yeah, I'm not worried
to
about them not doing well.
They're going to have setbacks. That was last season with Lee and a little bit of a choppy lineup, even adding Palmieri there. It's more solid than it's ever been, but we have to see what, who's going to step up. But they need to, if those two players step up, the lineup is truly as deep as it looks. They need to step up to fill that space.
Yeah.
That's maybe more of my point is even if one of them doesn't kind of hit their potential again, or even just have the same season as they've had in the past, they're in trouble. They don't have room forever. They have to get better for this team to reach the next step.
Yeah.
Barzal keeps playing the way he's playing. Team still, he did his job.
I agree.
Those other two guys need to step up for the Islanders. A 1-0 game. Somebody needs to step up there. Granted, Wahlstrom was not in that game. Fair enough. It's very hard to do that. As far as I know, don't need to be an expert. But it doesn't take that much. Even losing the game in overtime is different than losing it 1-0 on a shorthanded goal.
Right.
So I think that's what I'm saying. Like it doesn't. We're not asking for a lot. Just can they get to that next gear?
Right.
Barzal plays the same way he has been. Team's fine. That he's not the problem. In other words.
Yeah. No, I mean
these other players don't get better. They don't find a way. This team suffers. Dobson doesn't get the zone exits and capitalize on being on that power play unit. The team suffers. That will be one of the reasons why this team whatever. And you just don't want that opportunity. So that's why I chose those guys.
I don't disagree. It would just obviously it wouldn't hurt for the Islanders to have someone with a points total that is the equivalent of a superstar,
I mean, I that's possible. If Lee can get 30, Barzal's got 60 assists, Palmieri's got 25 goals. Like I think that's ideal, right? Like that's nothing. I think that's really hard on this team. Now, granted, Lee was doing it last season, as you said. He was on a really good pace.
Yeah. I don't think that's
It's not
impossible.
impossible. Right, it's not impossible. Ovechkin still scored a lot of goals with
That's
Trotz
what
as
I'm
his
saying.
coach.
Yeah.
So we're not talking about just completely things that are not possible. But yeah, that's why I chose those players. I don't disagree. If the first line can find other gear, I'll eat that crow on this podcast.
All right. With that, let's talk about the opening night in Carolina on Thursday. Tomorrow night, the Islanders are playing the Carolina Hurricanes, who are, I don't know, are they better this year? Did they take a lateral step? Did they get worse? Um, Likely that you're going to see Frederick Anderson in goal for them. They have a couple of young guys who stepped up last year. I think his name is Martin Nietzsche, who was really good. Jacob Slavin was pretty good for them on the back end. They lose Dougie Hamilton. They bring in your favorite player, TDA. And they also brought in who's the backup for them now? Oh, Antti Ranta. And I still think that they're a very good team up front. Their top six is really good. They're deep on defense. Their goaltending is questionable. Pound for pound against the Islanders, I expect a win. I expect a win. It could be another close game, a 1-0 game, a 2-1 game, something like that. I think the Islanders are obviously better in net. Um, I think Carolina edges them, the Islanders on defense, but the structure outweighs them as a whole. What do you think?
I could agree with the structure for sure. That's definitely a major strength for the Islanders. That's why people are predicting them to do really well. I did see was it DFO or something? One person had picked Carolina to win the Metro. The rest were the Islanders.
Uh huh.
Um,
That's largely most of the predictions have been either the Islanders or Carolina. And I think if percentage wise, if I'm just spitballing here, it's like 70-30. The Islanders are going to win the Metro between most of the predictions I've seen.
I gotta say I don't care much for any of that. Like I
Me
think it's
neither.
interesting and it's fun to do and
Yeah,
whatever.
that's all it
Um,
is. It's just interesting to see that.
yeah, and I don't necessarily care if the Islanders win the division. I don't know if it puts them in a other than home ice advantage. Like you want to see them have that. They played really well when they did. They play well at home anyway. Um, yeah, I mean, I'm not a big Freddie Anderson fan. I think he definitely had his day. It just didn't really play well in Toronto. Carolina is a much more defensive team. I'll give them that. Even with some changes and um, things like that, but they're much more defensively sound than Toronto. So maybe Anderson has a better time in Carolina simply because there's room in front of him. He's just battled injuries. Still have not finished that Leafs series now that I'm thinking about it. Um, yeah, well, Anderson's just battled injuries. Hopefully, whatever his knee problem was or whatever the issue was is solved. It just for his own sake, so we can keep playing. But yeah, I mean, I think the Islanders are just deeper. Their system is good. They're not the team that lost to them a few years ago in the second round. Um, Carolina certainly isn't the same either. I don't know that they've gotten better necessarily. Um, I could see it being a tight game. I think the Islanders come in and just kind of play their system to a T. Um, yeah, I could agree. 2-1, 3-2 game. Nothing crazy.
Yeah, nothing crazy. That will be the first of what is a 13-game road trip. You alluded to it earlier. You said you don't know how happy you would be if the Islanders came home 7-6. What do you think that they should do on the road to call it successful?
I think 7-6 or better. It's fine.
Okay.
Don't come back with a losing record. Play well. Overall, come back and say that was a good road trip. You can lose the games. Go 7-3-3. That would be fine. Obviously, that's you get some loser points in there, and that's whatever. But just play good hockey. Create some momentum. Don't lose a bunch of games in a row. I would keep it simple early on. The first 20 games are, I think they say who's ever in playoff position by Thanksgiving typically holds. So put yourself in a position to make sure that you're one of those teams. Easier to finish your season and go into the All-Star break. And now we're like skipping really far ahead. We just started. But like it's easier to put
Listen.
yourself in position
Mhm.
around that time leading up to the trade deadline than it is to catch up.
Right. And
Now you've seen the Blues do it, right? They catch up. They were last in the West of the league or whatever, and they come roaring back. Get the cobwebs out. If you're going to play some bad games, let it be early on. It's definitely some adversity, so I think it brings them together. Like I said earlier, the road trips tend to do that with these teams anyway. So yeah, I mean, not a losing record. Play well. Get Varlamov back. Get him a few starts. Get him back comfortable. Sorokin just playing well. In general, roll the 4 lines. I just want to see it all work. I don't want to see a bunch of tweaks. I want to see Trotz getting comfortable with it. Definitely the first 5 games. I don't want to see a bunch of changes and them trying to tweak this within an inch of its life.
Right.
Just play the game. Play on this hockey. Trotz doesn't do this, but like don't overcoach. Don't Wallstrom's having a slightly better game than Palmieri. Don't start switching people around.
Right.
Let them get into a groove here. Let them get a few games. Yeah, overall road trip, just not a losing record. Keeping it simple.
Yeah, the other day, Ryan Patton of the one of my colleagues at the fourth period asked me on the hot stove, what I thought would be a successful road trip.
What a name drop! Can we just talk about that for a second? That you're just like, oh yeah, on Sirius XM, a colleague asked me. Pretty big deal. So definitely, congrats. That was a big deal for you.
Thank you.
All joking aside.
I didn't think about that until you said it. Thank you. Anyway, he asked me, what I thought of the 13-game road trip and how they would need to be, or what they would need to accomplish on that road trip to be successful. And I said almost the same thing as you. I said 8 wins would be a good sweet spot, right? 7-6, 8-5, right? That's a good area to sit in. The reason I say that because 5 games, to start the first 13 games, if you lose 5, it's not the best. You might not be sitting at the top of your division at that point. Not that it really matters yet, but now you have a ton of games at home, right? You already played 13 games on the road. That means you have an extra 13 at home. I mean, everybody knows how the Islanders play when they're home. Very hard to beat. I forget what it was. What was the statistic last year? They won like 22 games at home, something like that.
I mean, that's half the season. That doesn't sound super. I have no idea.
So that's the thing. Everybody knows how they'll play at home. New arena, yeah, I get it, but it's not going to be. The only difference that it's going to be is for the players. They're not even going to notice that it's completely different once they're on the ice. It's every bit as intimate as the Nassau Coliseum. So it's still going to have that homey feel, like everybody in the stands are right on top of you and the fans are right in your face. It's still going to feel like that. Yeah, granted, they'll still have, they'll have all the new updated effects of, new scoreboard and lights and whatever, what have you. It's going to feel every bit as intimate as the Coliseum. So everybody knows how they play at home. The fans are going to be just as rowdy, and you don't want to play the Islanders at home.
Yeah. So through the first 13 games last season, they won 6 games. And they lost 2 in overtime and 1 in a shootout.
There you go.
And they made it all the way to the conference final. So the 13 games does not a season make. So I wouldn't be too concerned about what's going on at that point. Granted, it was a shorter season. Maybe that even makes it harder. There's a lot less time to kind of make that up. But they figured it out. They found some consistency. They rattled off a bunch of wins after game 20. A lot of points in a row in a short period there. So yeah, I wouldn't. You kind of just want to see things start to come together early on. after game 5, you want to see them start to roll a little bit. So maybe if they don't, they go, they're 3-3 or something like that after game 5, 6, whatever. Then you start to see them pick it up. So maybe they have a winning record, but it's 7-3-3, but or something like that. And whatever the case is, the early goings maybe was a little dicey, and then they figure it out. But this is a veteran team. They've all played together for so long. It's cobwebs, it's rust. Everyone's gonna have the same issues they're having as early on. Everyone's traveling for the first time. Everyone's whatever the case is. They might have an advantage that it's largely the same team. A lot of teams didn't have that ability, so they might have the ability to kind of take advantage of there. So we'll see.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. To wrap up the show, I thought it'd be fun to predict. Put your best thinking cap on, put your best brainstorming hat on, and tell me. Let's start with the Atlantic. Actually, let's start west.
Did we do this?
We did.
Did we do this a little bit a few episodes ago?
Nope, we did not.
I'm not going to go back and listen, but I also don't believe you. But we'll do it anyway.
Whatever.
For a new listener, we'll do it for them.
Starting with the Central, who do you think wins that division?
I want to see Colorado do well. They've gotten bounced in the second round. I want to see them do well.
Runner up.
Minnesota's interesting with Kaprizov. I don't really see anybody else in that division that got like a lot better. I don't think Winnipeg is scary.
I think they're a dark horse.
Maybe. Minnesota just played really well with Kaprizov. He's electric.
I agree.
But there really isn't. I mean, like St. Louis, I guess, is still good. So maybe they get their playoff team just because after that it really falls off the rest of that division, which is why I think maybe Minnesota can push. But yeah, all roads go through Colorado for that division.
Yeah, I agree with you. Colorado's going to be up top. I think Winnipeg does actually come in second in that division. New year for Pierre-Luc Dubois. I think it's going to be a big year for him. He had been in a weird, I guess, lull the past 2 seasons. Possibly leaving Columbus, and it finally happens, and too many transitions for him. And now I think that he's got some consistency. I think he'll do well in Winnipeg, which will ultimately, I think, put them over. They dress their defense, and they have, one of the best goaltenders in the league that nobody really, or I shouldn't say nobody, but isn't recognized enough in Connor Hellebuck. Then I have Minnesota and St. Louis to round it out. I think they'll be a wild card team. Missing the playoffs is Chicago, Dallas, Nashville, and Arizona, obviously. And then let's move on to the Pacific. And I think we're going to agree on who wins that division as well.
Yeah, I mean, Vegas is.
Yeah,
they're a deep team.
Yeah,
you kind of hope that Robin Leonard can just take the reins there full time and do his thing.
Yeah.
They have a lot of eggs in that roster. They have a lot of turnover, but they're kind of throwing it at the wall again here.
They need a center. They really need a center. I don't know if Nolan Patrick can be what he was drafted to be at second overall, but
a lot of injuries.
Yeah, a lot of injuries.
So I think they're clearly the best team. After that, I honestly have no idea. Edmonton, it's kind of, Draisaitl and McDavid are kind of like Malkin and Crosby. You can't count this team out.
Yeah.
They can kind of push that team forward. They are better. Zach Hyman on that team immediately makes them better. I
agree with that.
I'm very high on him when he was with Toronto. I thought he was very, very good. Spent a lot. He knows how to play with superstars. He played with Tavares for a long time on that second line. I think he'll fit in very well with McDavid or whatever from power play or whatever. He's capable. For the first time, McDavid and Draisaitl have. I think he's a pretty good addition there. Their goaltending is terrible still.
And I think that's the ultimate downfall for them.
They're running it back. Calgary. I don't know how they haven't blown this up. Like I'm like the past 2 seasons.
Yeah.
I don't know how you haven't moved anybody. Maybe that is still to be determined. If they're in a bad position come trade deadline, it's entirely possible that they pull the plug on it and that's it. Sutter is still the coach there, right?
Yeah.
He's pulled teams that looked worse than this far, so it's hard to count them out. Vancouver seems messy to me, so I don't know. I Seattle could be good. They can figure things out. They still have a lot of space. They can still make moves. LA, San Jose, Anaheim, sorry, California. Not great. But yeah, the 3 remaining spots after Vegas, no idea. Absolutely no idea.
Yeah, I have Vegas winning as well. I honestly have a feeling that I don't know what Vancouver is. I put them in second place because I think that they have to win. Because I think that they're desperate for success in Vancouver right now, and if they don't win, there's a decent possibility that they might gut that roster. Aside from Quinn Hughes, who they just signed and is still very young, and they'll try and see if
They have
they
no
can.
room. There's no cap room there. They brought in
Right,
OEL
right,
instead of having a bunch of guys who they traded to Arizona on expiring deals, and they would have had a ton of room.
yeah,
Jim Benning has just continued to just make it impossible for whoever the next GM is to do
yeah.
anything. He did a lot of not my problem moves. That's future GM that I don't care about's problem.
Yeah,
And if it works for him, he's great. He looks like a genius, but he does not have a good track record there so
no,
far. So, although that team's been scrappy and good, like they have surprised people here and there. So we'll see, but I don't. The whole rest of that division is up in the air for me. You could tell me any one of those teams is second place, and I'll believe you.
yeah. I think
I think it's Edmonton, frankly, but
I think the goaltending is much better for Vancouver in Thatcher Demko and now Yaroslav Halak, which is ultimately why I have them ahead of Edmonton. I have Edmonton at third because, like you said, you can never count out Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. And then Calgary, I think, gets in by the skin of their teeth. Then you have Seattle missing, LA missing, San Jose, and Anaheim. Over to the Atlantic Division. Who do you got? This is an intriguing division for me, at least in the top 4.
people have Florida real high,
Mm-hmm.
and
I'm with it.
I don't know. I mean, I want to see it. I really do. Give me another all Florida first round or second round matchup for the playoffs, right? Like that's great. Is it cheap to just have Tampa at first?
That's your call.
It feels cheap, but like I have no reason to believe they won't. I have no reason to believe they won't be first or second.
I don't blame you.
Toronto is the complete opposite. They're last place until I see them in first, right? Even though they led the North last year.
Yeah.
Do literally anything. Prove to me you're not just winning barn burner games. As we said, what Sheldon Keefe said, Stanley Cup winning habits. They don't have it.
Right.
They fold like a cheap lawn chair in an Islanders parking lot. It's just not. I don't really have any faith in them. And what's terrible is that they're a really good team. You might have a team in Florida that just has somehow a better structure. They did play well last year, in that division, so it's possible they just continue that. It's also hard to just count Boston out. Like they're veterans and they're a little bit older, and they've even lost some players. I don't know. I don't. And now with Taylor Hall there on a consistent basis, even though the Islanders kind of handled all that pretty well, still Boston. They're in until they're out. Again, the opposite of Toronto. They're in until I see otherwise. Toronto is out until I see otherwise. So, although the top 4, Florida, Tampa Bay, Toronto, in any order, sure, I believe that. The rest of that division, Montreal lost too many players. with Carey Price going through what he's going through, and we hope he gets better for hockey's sake.
Yep.
But most importantly for himself, please,
Mm-hmm.
get better. I'm glad to see he's using the NHL's player assistance program. But in general, Weber's not there, Price isn't there, Kotkaniemi's not there. They lost to some other centers. The only thing keeping them out of last place is the fact that Ottawa, Detroit, and Buffalo are in that division.
Ooh. Oh,
Like that, they're
that's some
saving
heat.
grace for the only way they're going to be sniffing the playoffs is because they're going to be able to collect points from them in the division.
Ooh.
The only reason
Oh,
they're in
man.
improving mode because you look at the teams that made the Stanley Cup final the last few seasons in Dallas, Montreal, like Dallas. Who was before that? Who played Tampa Bay the first time around? No, that was Dallas.
It was Dallas.
Who won the cup right before that?
What year? What, St. Louis?
1890 St. Louis.
Yeah.
Who'd they play in the final? Who was the East contender?
Oh, God, I can't even remember at this point.
I think the seasons after that, these teams kind of have fallen. Dallas fell off the radar completely last year. Now they were they had power outage issues in Texas. They had a COVID thing. Hard to really tell. A lot of people were saying that they weren't very good anyway. So again, they're out until they prove it. They don't really have a great track record in the regular season. They kind of squeaked in the last 2 years. So we'll see what they can do.
I have Florida winning this division. I think that although Tampa Bay is still a powerhouse, I'll say it again because I've said it before here. Losing that third line of Barclay Goudreau, Coleman, and Gord, it's going to hurt. I think it's going to hurt. And, the Stanley Cup hangover, maybe it's a thing. Maybe it's not for them. Who knows? They still got, Braden Point, obviously Steven Stamkos, Nikita Kucherov, Victor Hedman. They still have the best goaltender in the league, yada, yada. It's true. Like I said, offense, the top 6 wins you games, the bottom 6 wins you championships. I think losing those 3 is a step back for them. Maybe the replacements in Corey Perry, Ross Colton, and I forget who rounds out that line. Maybe they can replace what they lost. I don't know. That line was together for a while. They got to show it. And for me, I think at least on the offense, Florida's a little deeper. I like Spencer Knight. I like him a lot. And if Sergei Bobrovsky can be a shade of his former self, that's a good goaltending tandem. So I don't know. I have a funny feeling that Florida is gonna win the division, and then I have Tampa Bay after. I have Toronto in third. I think that they have strong regular seasons. It's the postseason where they lose it. And I have Boston as the wild card in that division. I agree with you that Montreal misses, Ottawa, Detroit, and then Buffalo. All right, on to the Metro. What do you got?
I think that's a really hard one. I can't count out like a Washington and Pittsburgh. They have Pittsburgh just seems to find these guys and they just make them work. Brian Boyle scores a goal first game with the team. Carter has 15 points in 17 games with the Penguins or some crazy number like that. Since joining the Penguins. So they just keep now their goaltending is a huge question, but it's hard again. I'm not counting out a team with Crosby on it. He will drag a team kicking and screaming. Carolina, we talked about. I don't know that they necessarily got better. People are really low on Columbus. New Jersey's definitely a dark horse. Philadelphia is not great. I think they're towards the bottom. I think maybe New Jersey finishes ahead of Philadelphia and Columbus. They're Montreal in a good way, where they're kind of pushing for that 6th or 5th seed and maybe making some noise if they can really get some things together. It's just not their time. Frankly, there's veteran teams in front of them. They're purposefully young. But they have a lot of really good young players. Like that roster is going to be excellent. They're going to be in good cap position moving forward. Like I'd watch out for them in the next few years, but obviously this year is not it. Top 4: Islanders, Washington, Pittsburgh, Carolina. In any order is fine. I don't know. Again, I don't, for the Islanders' sake, I don't know that it matters if they win the division. They've proven it doesn't matter if they have home ice advantage or not. Any one of those teams can win the division. It could be in any order. It doesn't matter. That's who's going to be duking it out. I think Philly misses. I think the Rangers miss. They got tougher. It's hard because we're making this prediction. I want to see how the toughness shakes out. They got tougher in a different way. The Islanders are tough. The Islanders are tough. The whole system they're difficult to play against. Right? They're a physical team. They're not tough. That's different. I feel like that's not the same thing. Right. The Rangers got like brute force tough.
They did.
And that's I don't know that that's all that effective unless you're good. So you're gonna beat up the Islanders, and then they have 3 other lines. Your bottom 6 got tough, and this is not just because it's the Rangers. I'm not bagging on the Rangers as much as we should dunk on them at any chance, but we've done a pretty good job at not really poking that much fun at the Rangers, by and large. Yeah, sure. So you got in a fight. You picked a fight with if Johnson's in the lineup and Martin and Clark. Sure. There's like 9 other guys or 10 other guys that can score goals. You probably have 3 guys out of the lineup. That's an entire line for you. That's not great. Like, I'm still going to beat you when your tough guys are not on the ice. They still have other guys that'll beat you up. Like, look, Adam Fox aside, like, he's excellent. He'll help carry that team. Cheadle's really good. They have a lot of good off. Kako has shown that he's grown. Lafreniere is gonna find his way. Kako's in the league 3 years now. This is his 3rd season.
Yeah.
First of all, when did that happen? But they can be good. They can sniff that 4th, 5th spot. I think veteran stuff just kind of wins out this year, and the Rangers kind of struggle to do that. They might be battling with Carolina. That's the battle that I see. Really? Unless Washington and Pitt just totally drop off the radar, which they've proven they've been holding that position for a really long time with the Ovechkin, Crosby, Malkin, Backstrom, whatever. So the Rangers are battling anybody for a spot. It might be Carolina.
Okay. I have a bit of a different take than you. I do have the Islanders winning the division. I think it's a different year for them. Not that they need to prove anything, but I think this is a year where they are gonna find a more consistent game, maybe perfect their system that much further. I think they're gonna be the top. I think they're the standard of the division. I think it's them.
I mean, based on back-to-back conference final appearances, and alone, that's fine. They're definitely a team. Regardless of where the Islanders end up in the division goes through the Islanders. It's not the same as Colorado running the division and then they go through the playoff. But the division goes through the Islanders one way or another.
Right. But my thought on this is mainly that the past 2 seasons they hadn't been the best regular season team. I think they learned from that finally. I think they find a way to be consistent and they find a way to stay up top. Not that, it would bother them if they're, in the 3rd or 4th place position, but I think that they find a just pull the rope, continue winning hockey games. I think they find that this year. Followed by Carolina. I think that they're still so good on the offense. Svechnikov is so good. Aho is excellent. I think they'll find a way to continue winning a lot of games.
At goaltending, I don't believe in it.
That's the one thing that that could be their Achilles heel. Antti Ranta is excellent when he is not injured, and if he could stay healthy, and same goes for Freddie Anderson, they could be a good duo together if they stay healthy. So we'll
Yeah,
see.
they might benefit just simply because Carolina's good defensively.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
I have the Rangers in third place.
That might be the bold prediction out of all of this,
Maybe.
frankly.
I like Zibanejad. He had COVID last year, and I think that hurt him for most of his season. I think he had a rough go at it because it took him a while to recover. Never ever count out a team that Artemi Panarin's on. He's top 5 in the league in my opinion. I think Lafreniere can step up. He had a really good second half last year. I think he was like a point per game in the second half. A lot of talk about Capo Caco stepping up this year. He looked real good in the preseason. I was
I
watching him
did see a lot of clips of him he looked stronger, way
Yeah.
more confident
Yes.
with the puck in and around the net, kind of some
Yep.
gritty areas. I
Yeah.
mean, again, I like to see good hockey. I don't really care what
Yeah.
jersey they're wearing.
I agree. And Adam Fox coming off a Norris year. He won the Norris, so not much to say about that. He was the best defenseman in the league.
Yeah.
And Igor Shasturkin, he's
Yeah,
I
the goaltending there is good.
they have good goaltending. Shasturkin
It's hard to
is
argue.
he's supposed to be he hasn't lived up to his potential, but his potential is that of an elite goaltender in this league.
Well, he and Sorokin seem to be kind of
Yeah,
going hand in hand. They're both
sure.
kind of that same caliber
Yeah,
goalie, although the Islanders have two goalies that where Sorokin doesn't have to feel that pressure, and they have the goalie whisperers.
right. They have
So that's an
Greco
advantage.
and Korn. But Georgiev is no slouch either. He there was some productive. I think there was productive struggle for the Rangers the past year.
They had a really good second half just in general.
They did. They know
They
how to
weren't as
score.
bad as not making the playoffs. Like, I think that's something that is overlooked at times. Like, a good team that misses the playoffs it's seen as an unsuccessful season.
Yeah,
But I don't think that was them last year. I think they had a really good season when they
Yeah.
found their level of play that they were comfortable with. It was just late. But they missed the playoffs as a good team.
The Rangers know how to score. That's not going to be their issue. Their issue was keeping the puck out of the net. Like I said, Fox is the reigning Norris Trophy winner. I think Keandre Miller has another really good year. Niles Lundqvist
God,
is now
he's
on
good
the
too.
team. He is
Miller's real
good.
good.
Niles Lundqvist made the team. He's got a high prospect profile. Jacob Trouba, now that he's not the guy to depend on, I think he's pretty good there. So listen, I don't think that the Rangers are going to be a pushover this year. They could make some noise. And then fourth place in the division and claiming the wild card spot, I have Washington. I think
That goalie tandem is not exciting to me. Their
so.
defense isn't exciting.
Samsonov is similar to, not as good, but similar to Shosturkin, where he's one of those high profile young netminders who's supposed to be really good in this league. And Vitek Vanacek, he was very good last year. He I think he had like a mid 900 save percentage. It might have been like 910. He came out of nowhere, so he was very good for what they asked him to do. And I think as a tandem, if Samsonov can become what he's supposed to be, I think they could be very good together. I think their defense got worse. That's why they were at the top of the division last year behind Pittsburgh. Now I have them down in fourth place in the wild card, just making the playoffs. I'm waiting for this team to grow out or to age out of contention. Backstrom starting the year he's starting the year hurt. Ovechkin already got banged up in the preseason. Evgeny Kuznetsov needs to decide if he wants to be an elite player or not. TJ Oshie's growing old now. Like, they got a lot of older guys on this team. And then there's a couple of rookie players in Connor McMichael and Hendrix Lapierre, I believe it's pronounced. They're on board now. They're playing. I think their second line center at this moment is Lars Eller.
They're just not very deep, like in
Right.
any respect. So that's the goaltending's been a little shaky. It's a lot like Pittsburgh. After
Yeah.
their top guys, it seems to fall off. Pittsburgh has done a better job at filling in the gaps with some veterans and Jake Gensel kind of coming out of nowhere and these different players. But their goaltending still lacking, as we saw in
Yeah.
this year's playoffs. And really, whenever the Islanders have played Pittsburgh in the playoffs, they've not been very good. And their defense after Letang, who's not really been super great the last few years.
Yeah.
Nothing. No one jumps out at me. We'll see. I see Pittsburgh ahead of Washington, frankly. But
So I have Philly, Pittsburgh, New Jersey, and Columbus in that order, missing the playoffs. Philly retooled. I just don't love their goaltending. I don't know that they have confidence in each other in that room either. It was a pretty lousy season from them last year, and they got rid of Voracek, and they brought in Ellis, and they brought in Cam Atkinson. Which is, I think they're going to be better than last year, but better than any of the four that made the playoffs for me. I don't think so. Pittsburgh, they're going to be without Malkin for half the year, and Crosby is going to be out for another couple weeks. That's going to be tough to recover from if they can't, maintain, a good winning percentage. New Jersey is going to be much improved. They're definitely a dark horse for this division, and I think they could come close to making the playoffs if they really, really all took the same step forward together. If Blackwood ends up not missing any time because of his status, that's going to be huge for them. But if they don't take a collective step forward, they can sit, near the bottom of that division once again. And for Columbus, I don't know. I don't know what to make of them. Laine looked real good in the preseason. Did you see that really good goal that he scored
against Detroit?
Yes, Moritz Seider undressed him real easily, and it was a pretty goal. So maybe he's ready to go. Jacob Voracek's there now. Maybe that he needed to change the scenery. But their first line center is Alex Texier, and nothing against Texier, but he's not a first line center. And I believe their second line center is going to be Cole Sillinger, who is a rookie. He's 18 years old. He just got drafted. They also have Chinnikov, who was drafted 2 seasons ago. So two rookies that are going to be part of their main lineup. I don't know. They're not deep enough for me.
No.
They lost Seth Jones,
who's not as good as his $9.5 million is making him out to me.
Yeah, maybe he's a little overpaid. I think there's a weird conception with Seth Jones that we could talk about another time. A lot of people either love him or hate him. But now it's just Zach Werenski on the Columbus blue line, as far as I can make note of. They have good goaltending. I'll give them that. If they're going to be better than the bottom of the Metro Division, it's going to be because of their goaltending. Merzlikins and Korpisalo are a good duo.
Yeah, who was the player that passed away over the summer?
That was Matthias Kivlinkins.
Yeah, that was a big loss. That was a good duo.
Yeah. Rest in peace to Matthias Kivlinkins. I think that's how you pronounce it. Tragic firework incident. But yeah, so Columbus I have at the bottom of the Metro. Real quick, in the Eastern Conference Final, who wins and who's in it?
I mean, you almost can't bet against Islanders Tampa Bay, right?
I agree.
Something like that.
Is this the year the Islanders take it?
Let's go for it. Islanders to the cup.
Third time's the charm?
Third time's a charm. I think Tampa Bay, they might meet Tampa Bay earlier in the playoffs.
Could be.
It's possible that's how, if the Islanders wind up in a wild card or something, they might and Tampa Bay ends up a little bit higher or vice versa. They might wind up playing Tampa early on, and like we saw with the Capitals and the Penguins. The Capitals, one way or another, it wasn't in the conference final. I think it was in the second round.
Mhm.
They had to overcome their demon, which was the Penguins. So
Yeah.
it doesn't really matter. The Islanders have to go through the Lightning. I think that's just how it's going to work. The Lightning humbled them a few years ago after they beat Florida in 2016. The Islanders have now lost 2 more times to the Tampa Bay Lightning. So 3 out of 4 times they've been kicked out of the playoffs has been at the hands of the Lightning. Yeah, that's who their demons are. So that I'd say one way or another they have to go through to Tampa. Let's bring it to the conference final just to make it interesting.
Yeah. I also have the Islanders over Tampa Bay and making it to the Stanley Cup. Over in the West, who do you got? Conference final.
Colorado has their own demons. They can't seem to make it past Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
So one of them too. I mean, I think both divisions go through those teams. Everyone else has something to prove. Hopefully Colorado just doesn't get stuck playing a Vegas early on, and that or they can overcome that, and maybe that's their time. Colorado lost their goalie to Seattle. That they've been kind of relying on for some time, so we'll see. I want to say Colorado the Cup. I want to say that they make it. They're kind of like my St. Louis for a long time, where I thought they were really really good and they're gonna do it, and they just kept losing the second round. I think they finally figure it out and they make it all the way.
I'm with you there, pal. I got Colorado to the Cup. They're meeting Vegas in the conference final. It's the year of the revenge, my friend.
Maybe a revenge tour. Let's do it. I'm
tour.
there for that.
The Islanders get their revenge on the Lightning. The Avalanche get their revenge on the Golden Knights. And it's going to be the Islanders versus Colorado in the Stanley Cup. For both of us, who wins?
I don't know. It's both teams. If that's how it shakes out, both of those teams deserve it. Right ahead of time, we can say that.
Sure.
They both overcome a lot. They've both been really close for a long time. Top of their division, or whatever you want to call it. Because of who we are as a podcast and our undying allegiance to this silly team. And because I think by that point, if they make it all the way like that, they'll just shut it down.
Mm-hmm.
I think they can compete with the Colorado. Let's call it Islanders in 7. I'll even go that far and to call the games.
I like it. I'm gonna say Islanders as well. I have them over Colorado. Sure, let's do it in 7. Why not? If the Islanders can beat
at Belmont somehow.
At Belmont, yeah. Well, they'd both be the 1 seed, so I guess it would go by whoever has the better record in the regular season. Is that how that works?
Yeah. They don't reseed.
Yeah. But
or do they? Who cares?
Yeah, that was like a last year thing. I don't know if it's happening again, but yeah, I have them over Colorado. If the Islanders can get past Tampa Bay, they surely can get past Colorado. I do think that although Colorado is the juggernaut of the West, I think at this time, even though I have my doubts about losing that third line, they're still a juggernaut over in Tampa Bay. I think they're slightly better, maybe if not equivalent to Colorado at this moment. So I think you could see the Islanders finally claim their prize at the end of this season. That was fun.
Yeah. Let's see how it shakes out. We'll go back to episode 81.
Yeah. All right, that's going to wrap it up for tonight. We want to say thank you to DraftKings and Manscaped. Use that THPN promo code with DraftKings and that NHP20 promo code with Manscaped. I want to say thank you to the Hockey Podcast Network and, of course, all of you, our listeners. Please rate, review, and subscribe wherever you listen to or watch the show. You can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at Nassman Hockey. You can join our Discord for a safe space to chat with fellow Islander fans. Lastly, you can find my work at the Fourth Period and John's work at the Hockey Writers, and now collaboratively at Isles Fix in your mailbox every morning, Monday through Friday. Until next time, everybody, let's go out.